Nia arrived at the restaurant a week before the wedding to discuss the menu and the seating chart. At the entrance, she was intercepted by a waitress she didn't know. "Hide behind the screen at the back of the hall. There is no time to explain. Just trust me." Nia listened, and 5 minutes later she understood everything. Welcome to the Twists of Fate channel. Before we begin, please write in the comments where you are tuning in from. We are very interested to know. We wish you a pleasant listening experience of this fascinating story. Nia Vance parked her old Honda outside the White Rose restaurant and froze for a second, looking at the glowing windows of the two-story building. It was Thursday, 7 in the evening, exactly 1 week before the most important day of her life, the wedding. Her wedding to Marcus. She still couldn't believe this was all happening to her. An ordinary financial analyst at a small construction firm. A girl with no special talents or dizzying beauty. Yet Marcus had chosen her. Tall, charming, with a good job at an advertising agency. His mother, Evelyn Thorne, had admittedly been cool toward their relationship at first, but then she seemed to thaw, even helping to choose this venue for the reception. Nia got out of the car, adjusted her purse on her shoulder, and headed toward the entrance. A list of tasks swirled in her head. Finalize the menu, settle the guest seating, discuss the music playlist, and check the hall decorations. Evelyn had insisted that Nia go alone, saying the bride knows best what she wants. Marcus was busy at work, and besides, he always said that wedding fuss was a woman's job. The door to the restaurant swung open, and Nia was hit by warmth and the smell of fresh pastries. Inside it was almost empty for a weeknight evening. Still an hour before the dinner rush, a woman in her 30s stood behind the host's stand, flipping through some papers. Nia started toward her, but was intercepted by a young waitress in a black and white uniform. The girl looked agitated, her face was drawn, her eyes wide with fear. "Excuse me, are you Nia Vance?" she asked quickly, looking Nia straight in the eye. "Yes, I am. We had an appointment for 7 o'clock. I'm here about the banquet." Nia smiled confusedly. "How do you know my name?" The waitress grabbed her by the arm. Her fingers were cold, squeezing tight, almost painfully. "Listen to me carefully." The girl's voice trembled but sounded urgent. "You need to hide immediately. Do you see that carved wooden screen at the back of the hall? Go behind it and don't come out until I say so." "What? What screen? What are you talking about?" Nia tried to free her arm, but the waitress held on tight. "There is no time to explain. Just trust me, please." Tears almost broke through in the girl's voice. "In a few minutes people will come here. You cannot let them see you. I will explain everything later. Promise. But right now just go there." Nia stood in the middle of the restaurant lobby, staring into the desperate eyes of the stranger. The whole situation seemed absurd. Some girl she was seeing for the first time was demanding she hide immediately. A normal person would have said no and asked for the manager. But something in the waitress's tone, in her gaze, in that genuine panic made Nia fall silent. "Please," the girl whispered. "I am not crazy and I don't want to hurt you. On the contrary, I beg you. Just trust me. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes." Nia nodded slowly, not knowing why she obeyed. Maybe intuition kicked in. Maybe just curiosity. The waitress immediately let go of her hand, glanced quickly at the front door, and almost pushed Nia toward the dining hall. Right at the very end behind the screen there is a small alcove. You won't be seen from there, but you'll be able to hear everything happening in the room. Nia walked through the hall. Her legs moved as if on their own. Her heart pounded somewhere in her throat. The restaurant was decorated in a classic style. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, paintings in gilded frames on the walls. In the far corner, there really was a tall carved screen of dark wood. Behind it lay a small alcove with a soft sofa, apparently for guests who wanted privacy. Nia sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching her purse on her knees. Her hands were shaking. What was she doing? Hiding in her own wedding venue from some unknown people. Maybe this was a prank. Her friend Katie was always arranging strange surprises. But no, the waitress looked too frightened for a prank. A minute passed, then 2. Nia heard soft music playing in the hall. Somewhere dishes clinked. She was just about to come out and demand an explanation when the front door slammed. Voices. 2 voices that Nia would recognize out of 1,000. Table by the window as usual came the calm, confident voice of Evelyn Thorne. Nia froze. Her future mother-in-law was here, but she had said she was busy today, that she had a meeting with some business partners. Mom, maybe we shouldn't do this here. It was Marcus. His voice sounded anxious, quiet. What if someone we know sees us? Don't be a coward. There will be no one here at this time. I specifically chose Thursday, a weeknight. Sit down. Nia cautiously rose and peeked through a narrow gap between the sections of the screen. Evelyn and Marcus were sitting at a table about 30 feet away from her by a large window overlooking the evening city. Her mother-in-law looked impeccable as always, a strict dark blue suit, neat hair, a gold chain around her neck. Marcus fidgeted nervously in his chair, picking at a napkin. What were they doing here? Why meet secretly? Did the waitress know they would come? Stop twitching, Evelyn said sharply, opening a large leather bag. You are making me nervous. Here, look. She pulled out a stack of documents and spread them on the table. Nia squinted, trying to make out something, but was too far away. Are these the contracts? Marcus asked. Loan agreements, 3 banks. The total amount is $150,000. We will put everything in Nia's name right after the civil ceremony. Nia felt the ground drop out from under her feet. What? Loans in her name? What were they talking about? Mom, I don't understand. Why, Nia? There was confusion in Marcus' voice. Because you and I and Julian can't get approved for anything anymore. Evelyn spoke calmly, practically, as if discussing buying groceries. Our credit history is ruined. We are blacklisted everywhere. But your little bride is clean. She has an excellent credit score. Plus, she owns a condo. The banks will give it without a problem. But she won't agree to just take out loans for $150,000. And we won't tell her they are loans. Evelyn laughed. That laugh made Nia's blood run cold. We will say these are documents for the family business. Registering an LLC where she is a co-founder. We'll say that for tax benefits it needs to be registered to a married couple. She is trusting. She is in love. She will sign whatever she is given. She won't even read it. Nia gripped the screen with her hands. It became hard to breathe. This couldn't be happening for real. It couldn't. She was sleeping. This was a nightmare. She would wake up any moment. And if she reads it anyway, Marcus's voice sounded unsure. She won't read it. You will stand next to her, rush her, say you are running late. You'll say that you checked everything, that it's just a formality. She trusts you. She trusts you like a fool. Mom, this is dishonest. Marcus spoke quietly, but Nia heard every word. The hall was almost empty. The acoustics excellent. She is a good girl. She loves me. Good means stupid. Evelyn cut him off. Marcus, wake up. We are losing everything. The business burned out. The debts are huge. Collectors are already calling. If we don't find the money, they will simply destroy us. And here is a solution on a silver platter. A fresh daughter-in-law with a condo and a clean reputation. But $150,000. How will we pay it back? We won't. Evelyn was calmly putting the documents back. More accurately, she will be paying it back. The loans are in her name. The condo is collateral. In 6 months you will get a divorce. What? Marcus almost cried out. Quiet, you idiot. His mother looked around, but there was no one in the hall. That young waitress seemed to have dissolved into thin air. 6 months after the wedding you will file for divorce. You'll say irreconcilable differences. By law, assets are divided, but debts remain with the person whose name they are on, that is on her. But that is low, Mom. It is survival. Evelyn took a mirror out of her purse and fixed her hair. Julian and I already pulled this off 3 years ago. Everything went smoothly. The girl was left with the debts. We got the money, closed some holes. True, it didn't last long. Nia listened and didn't believe her ears. 3 years ago. That meant this wasn't the first time. They had already done this to someone. Julian married someone specifically for this too? Marcus asked. Well, of course. She was a nice girl. True, she figured out the scheme too quickly. We had to act tougher, but in the end it all worked out. She is working somewhere now, paying off loans, and we are alive and well. Marcus was silent. Nia saw his profile, his clenched jaw, his slumped shoulders. He looked crushed, but not protesting, not indignant, just accepting. Marcus, I understand it's unpleasant for you. Evelyn's voice became softer. almost tender. You are a good boy. You have a conscience, but the world is cruel, son. It is us or them. And it is better that some random girl suffers than my family ends up on the street. You don't want your mother to live in poverty, do you? No, of course not. That's wonderful. So we do as I said. After the ceremony, we will have 3 days before you fly to the resort. During those 3 days, you will bring her to the notary's office. She will sign a power of attorney for me to manage her property. You'll say it is for setting up joint ownership so I can handle legal issues while you are away. Then you bring her to the bank. There she will sign the loan agreements. I will be with you. I will control everything. And if she finds out later, she'll sue. Sue for what? Evelyn chuckled. The documents are signed by her hand. The notary will certify that she was of sound mind and memory. No threats, no coercion. Just a stupid girl trusted her husband and mother-in-law. It happens. Besides, by the time she figures out what's what, you will already be divorced and I will be completely on the sidelines. Let her try to prove something. Nia listened to this conversation and felt everything inside her slowly freezing. There were no tears, no hysterics, just an icy emptiness spreading through her veins. The person she loved, to whom she was going to give her life, who kissed her and whispered how dear she was to him. This person sat across from his mother and discussed how to deceive her, rob her, and leave her with massive debts. Mom, what if she suspects something after all? She isn't a complete fool. She works as an analyst. She deals with numbers. You will distract her, Evelyn said harshly. That is exactly why I insisted on a honeymoon in Mexico. 2 weeks on the beach, all-inclusive romance, champagne. While she is swimming in happiness and hormones, all the documents will take effect, and when you return I will have already received the money from the banks, transferred it to offshore accounts, and even if she realizes something it will be too late. I feel sorry for her, Marcus said quietly. Nia flinched. Sorry. He felt sorry for her like a homeless kitten in the rain, but not sorry enough not to betray her. Sorry. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. Marcus, listen to me carefully. Your father left us a business that I have been trying to save for 10 years. For 10 years I put in all my strength, all my money, all my connections, and it still burned out. The crisis, competitors, partners, traders. Right now we have a debt of $500,000. This $150,000 is a drop in the ocean, but it will allow us to buy time, regroup, maybe find new investors, or maybe just declare bankruptcy and lose absolutely everything. Condos, cars, the last. Shreds of reputation. She shook her head. No, I won't give up. I will find a way to swim out. And for that, money is needed. Any money, even if it means destroying someone's life. Destroying? Evelyn chuckled. You are being dramatic. She is young, healthy, she works. She will pay off the loans in a few years, find herself another husband. She'll survive. But you and Julian and I won't survive. The loan sharks don't stand on ceremony, son. They already came by once, threw a brick through the window. Next time they might maim someone. Marcus fell silent again. Nia watched him through the slit in the screen and didn't recognize him. Where was that charming guy who courted her for 6 months, who brought flowers, kissed her hands, said she was the meaning of his life? Was it really all a lie from the very beginning? All right, Marcus finally said, I will do as you say. But Mom, promise me never again. This is the last time. Of course, son. Evelyn smiled softly, patting his hand. One last time, we get the money, close the most urgent debts, and everything will be fine. Promise. She stood up, took the bag with the documents. Let's go. The hostess said. Your fiancé should arrive at 7 o'clock. I don't want her to see us here. Did we discuss everything? Yes. Marcus stood up, shoved his hands in his pockets. Everything is clear. They headed for the exit. Nia sat behind the screen, unable to move. She heard the door slam, heard the hall become quiet again. Only the quiet music and her own heartbeat which throbbed in her temples. A few seconds later, that same waitress appeared. She peeked behind the screen and sat down next to Nia on the sofa. Did you hear everything? She asked quietly. Nia nodded slowly. Her throat was tight, but there were still no tears, only that strange icy emptiness. I knew they would come today. The waitress spoke quickly, stumbling over her words. Evelyn Thorne is a regular client. I studied her schedule. She always comes here to discuss her dirty business. She thinks it's safe here. When I saw your name on the reservation list for 7 in the evening, and then learned that Evelyn had booked a table for 6 o'clock, I realized I had to act. How do you know all this? Nia could barely move her tongue. Because 3 years ago I was in your place. The waitress looked her in the eye. My name is Kesha. I was the wife of Julian, Evelyn's older son. Nia looked at Kesha and slowly began to understand that story Evelyn had so coldly told Marcus. She was a nice girl. True. She figured out the scheme too quickly. That was her. This thin waitress with tired eyes and nervous fingers. You are that girl? Nia whispered. That fool who believed in love? Kesha smiled crookedly. Let's go. It's uncomfortable to talk here. I am finishing my shift now. I'll ask the manager for a break. There is a supply room on the 2nd floor. No one will disturb us there. Nia obediently got up and followed Kesha. Her legs moved automatically. Her head was in a fog. They went up a narrow service staircase to the 2nd floor, past the kitchen where sounds and smells of cooking drifted out and turned into a corridor. Kesha opened the door to a small room, apparently a staff break room, an old sofa, a table, a few chairs, a coffee maker on the windowsill. Sit down. Kesha closed the door, poured water from a cooler into a plastic cup, and handed it to Nia. Drink. You look like you're about to pass out. Nia took the cup with trembling hands and took a few sips. The water was cold, cutting unpleasantly at her throat, but it cleared her head a little. Kesha sat opposite on a warm chair, placing her hands on her knees. I know what you are feeling right now, she said quietly. It feels like the ground has disappeared from under your feet. Like everything you believed in turned out to be a lie. Like you are an idiot who was led by the nose. How are you? How did this happen to you? Nia put the cup on the table, clenched her hands into fists to stop the trembling. Kesha leaned back in her chair and looked out the window. Outside the glass, November twilight was thickening. Streetlights were turning on. 3.5 years ago, I was working as an assistant accountant at a small firm. The salary was pennies. I lived in a rented apartment with a friend. My parents died when I was 19. I was left alone. But I had my own condo, a 2-bedroom in a quiet suburb, inheritance from my grandmother. Not much but mine. She paused, ran a hand over her face. I met Julian at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was so charming, courted beautifully, gave flowers, took me to restaurants, said he worked in the family business, that he and his mother had a construction company. For months later he proposed. I was on cloud 9. I was 23 in love like a fool. And here was a successful man in a nice car proposing marriage. I thought it was fate. Nia listened and saw her own reflection in this story. She had met Marcus 8 months ago at a corporate party for mutual acquaintances. Just as handsome, courteous, attentive, also talked about the family business and advertising agency, also proposed a few months later. After the wedding, Kesha continued, Evelyn became very actively involved in my life. Said that since I was now part of the family, I should participate in the business. Brought some documents. Said we needed to transfer a share of the company to me for tax benefits. She said, I, the fool, didn't even read them properly. I just signed where they pointed. Julian stood nearby, nodding his head, saying everything was fine. And those were loan agreements? Nia asked quietly. Not just that, also a power of attorney to manage my condo, a mortgage lien, personal guarantees for some fictitious obligations, a whole package of documents. I signed everything in one day. A week later, Julian and I flew to the Maldives for our honeymoon. 2 weeks in paradise. I was happy. And when we returned, it turned out that I had over $100,000 in debt hanging on me. My condo was in foreclosure and Evelyn had already received the cash. Nia covered her face with her hands. Exactly the same scheme word for word. Only they planned to pull it off on her for $150,000. What did you do? She asked. First I thought it was a mistake. Went to Julian. He started dodging, saying it was temporary, that money was needed for the business, that they would return everything soon. Then I went to Evelyn. She didn't even pretend. She said straight out, the money went to close debts. The condo will be sold if I don't pay on the loans. And she also advised me not to make a scene, or there could be problems more serious than financial ones. She threatened you, hinted. Said she had connections in law enforcement, that if I went to the police I would end up guilty of fraud myself. Like I dragged their family into some illegal schemes. After all their documents were clean, everything processed according to the law. I signed it myself. The notary certified it, proving coercion is impossible. Kesha stood up, walked to the window, leaned on the sill. I tried to fight, hired a lawyer with my last money. He said the case was almost hopeless. All signatures were mine. All documents were executed correctly. The only chance was if other victims of this family were found, then we could prove systematic fraud. But where to find them? Julian filed for divorce 2 months after the wedding. Said I was hysterical and we were incompatible. We split quickly. By court order, the debts remained with me. And you are still paying. Nia's voice trembled. I am paying. Had to sell the condo. The bank took the money to cover the debt. I rent a room, work 2 jobs, waitress here during the day. In the evenings, I moonlight putting up flyers. I pay $40,000 a year. 2 more years to pay. Nia stood up, walked over to Kesha and hugged her by the shoulders. The women stood by the window and both cried. Finally, the tears broke through the icy crust, and Nia sobbed for real, gasping and shuddering. Kesha didn't hold back either. They cried together. 2 deceived women whom one family decided to use as cash cows. Why didn't you leave the city? Nia asked when she had calmed down a little. Why did you stay? Why work in this particular restaurant? Kesha wiped her tears with the back of her hand, turned to Nia. Because I haven't accepted it. 6 months ago, I found out that Evelyn is a regular client of the White Rose. She comes here once a week, sometimes more often, holds meetings, discusses business. I got a job here as a waitress specifically to watch her, listen to her conversations when there was an opportunity, collect information. What for? To find other victims, to collect evidence. Evelyn is cautious, but not enough to keep her mouth completely shut. In 6 months I learned a lot. For example, that she really pulled this scheme not only with me. There are at least 2 other women. I don't know their names, but I know they exist. If we find them and combine our testimonies, we can file a class action lawsuit. Nia sat back on the sofa, wiped her face with a napkin. Her head was spinning from the abundance of information, from shock, from tears. You want to put her in jail? I want justice, Kesha said harshly. She destroyed my life and the lives of other women, and she was going to destroy yours. Such people must answer for their actions. I was waiting for the moment when I would catch her on something concrete with evidence. And then suddenly, I see the name Vance on the reservation list. Time 7 in the evening. Reason discussing a wedding banquet. Then the manager mentioned that the banquet was booked under the name Thorne and you realized I was the next victim. Checked through mutual friends on social media, found your page. There were photos with Marcus, a Thorne, Evelyn's younger son. That meant they were at it again. When I saw that Evelyn ordered a table for today an hour before you, everything became clear. They would come to discuss the plan and you would have to arrive later. Suspecting nothing. Nia shook her head, not fully believing the reality of what was happening. You saved me. If not for you, I would have gotten married in a week, signed all those papers, and in a few months been left with nothing. I couldn't let it happen again. Kesha sat next to Nia, took her hand. You know, all this year I blamed myself. Thought that if I had been smarter, more attentive, not such a trusting fool, nothing would have happened. But when I saw that they were going to pull the same thing with you, I realized it's not that we are fools. The thing is, they are professional scammers. They know how to choose a victim, how to gain trust, how to manipulate. This is not our fault. This is their crime. What should I do now? Nia looked at Kesha with clouded eyes. I can't just go home and pretend I don't know anything. I can't look Marcus in the eye knowing he plans to betray me. And you shouldn't pretend. Kesha squeezed her hand tighter. But showing that you know their plans is also impossible. If they realize you know, they will simply disappear. Find another victim and it will all start over. Then what? Kesha fell silent thinking. Then slowly pronounced. We need to catch them red-handed with evidence. We need to make it so they can't wriggle out. Are you ready for this? Nia raised her head, looked Kesha in the eyes. Through the tears, through the pain, through the shock, something else was breaking through. Anger. Cold, hard anger. I'm ready, she said. Tell me what to do. Kesha nodded, took out her phone. First, we need a lawyer. A good lawyer who specializes in fraud. I have the contact of the one who helped me 3 years ago. He is honest, experienced. We'll explain the situation to him. He will advise on how to act from a legal point of view. Okay. Second, we need to go to the police but not just walk in and complain. We need evidence. Today's conversation between Evelyn and Marcus is already something. But it wasn't recorded. We need them to repeat their intentions in front of witnesses or on a recording. How do we do that? You must continue to play the role of the unsuspecting bride. Meet with Marcus. Talk about the wedding. Rejoice. And when Evelyn or Marcus starts slipping you documents, you must record that moment on your phone on a voice recorder however you can. The main thing is to document that they are offering you papers to sign under false pretenses. Nia nodded, absorbing every word. And third, Kesha paused. We need to find other victims. If we combine our testimonies, the case will be much stronger. I know such women exist. Evelyn mentioned once in conversation that the scheme has been working for 5 years. That means besides me there is at least 1 or 2 more. How do we find them? Through the courts. Divorce cases for Julian and Marcus are public information. We can request through the lawyer, see if they had other marriages that ended quickly. Find these women and talk to them. Nia stood up, paced the room. Her head was still foggy, but a plan was starting to break through. A clear sequential plan. When is the wedding? Kesha asked. In a week, next Saturday. That means we have a week to prepare everything. It's not much, but we'll have to make it work. The main thing is not to give yourself away. Marcus must suspect nothing. I can handle it. Nia said it quietly but firmly. I will play the role of the love-struck fool so well he won't guess a thing. Kesha smiled for the first time during the whole conversation. You are strong. That is good. You will need all your strength. They exchanged phone numbers. Kesha dictated the lawyer's contact info, wrote down his office address. They agreed to meet tomorrow evening to discuss details. Are you going home now? Kesha asked to Marcus. I've been living with him for the last 2 months. Moved almost everything to his place. Can you keep a straight face? Nia took a deep breath, wiped the last tears, took a mirror out of her purse, touched up her lipstick, fixed her hair. A pale face with red eyes was reflected in the mirror, but the gaze was steady. I can, she said. I have no other choice. They went down the back stairs. The hall was already more crowded. Waiters skewered between tables. The manager looked at Nia in surprise, walked up to her. Good evening. You are here about the Thorn banquet, correct? I'm sorry we lost you. Thought you weren't coming. Yes, sorry. Got held up. Nia feigned a guilty smile. Can we discuss the details now? Of course. Come into my office. They sat for half an hour discussing the menu, drinks, hall decorations. Nia took notes, nodded, smiled. Inside, a storm was still raging, but on the outside, she looked like an ordinary bride concerned with organizing a celebration. When everything was discussed, Nia left the restaurant. It was completely dark outside. A fine rain was falling. She got into her car, started the engine but didn't move. She laid her head on the steering wheel and just sat like that for a few minutes, allowing herself a final moment of weakness. Then she raised her head, wiped her face with the sleeve of her jacket, turned on the headlights and drove to Marcus's home. To the man who was supposed to become her husband in a week. To the man who planned to destroy her life. She drove through the night city and repeated to herself like a mantra. I can handle this. I am strong. I won't let them win. Nia parked at Marcus' building and sat in the car for a few minutes, gathering her courage. A 5-story walk-up in a quiet residential area. The windows on the 3rd floor glowed with warm yellow light. Marcus was home waiting for her. She had to go in there and pretend that nothing had changed, that she was still that same trusting Nia who loved him and dreamed of a wedding. She took out her phone, looked at the screen, 3 missed calls from Marcus. Where are you? How did the meeting at the restaurant go? Nia, are you coming soon? Ordinary messages from a caring fiancé. Now every word read differently with a taste of lies. Nia typed a reply. Driving. Almost there. Discussed everything. It will be beautiful. Added a heart emoji. Sent it. Put the phone in her bag. Got out of the car. Going up the stairs. She rehearsed her smile. Stopped before the door. Took a deep breath. Found the key. Opened it. Nia, finally Marcus came out of the room smiling broadly. Hugged her. Kissed her on the cheek. I was starting to worry. How did it go? His hands on her shoulders, his lips on her skin. Just yesterday this caused warmth, butterflies in her stomach. Now every touch was repulsive, but Nia forced herself to smile, hugged him back. Everything is great, she said, trying to make her voice sound natural. Chose the menu, discussed the hall decorations. It will be very beautiful. You'll see. I didn't doubt you. Marcus ran his hand through her hair. You have excellent taste. Did you eat? I ordered pizza. It just arrived. No, didn't eat. Hungry as a wolf. They went into the kitchen. An ordinary evening scene. A pizza box on the table. 2 plates. A bottle of wine. Marcus poured wine into glasses. Talked about his day at work. About a picky client, about how tired he was. Nia listened, nodded, ate pizza. Although every piece got stuck in her throat. Mom called today, Marcus said casually, pouring her more wine. Asked about the wedding, she's very worried that everything goes well. Nia almost choked. Worried. Evelyn was worried. Of course, $150,000 was at stake. She is always so caring. Nia squeezed out. I got lucky with my mother-in-law. Yeah. Marcus smiled. But Nia noticed something elusive in his eyes. Tension. Guilt. She really grew to love you. Says you are like a daughter to her. Like a cash cow, Nia thought, but said aloud. I love her very much too. She helps us so much. They sat until 11. Nia forced herself to keep up the conversation, laughed at his jokes, discussed plans for the honeymoon. When Marcus tried to hug her in bed, she pleaded a headache and fatigue. He didn't insist, kissed her forehead, wished her good night. Nia lay in the dark, listening to his breathing nearby, and felt like she was going crazy. How can you sleep next to a person who is betraying you? How can you pretend that everything is normal? But she knew she had to for the sake of justice for Kesha, for herself. The next day, Nia left work early, citing pre-wedding hassles. Her boss was understanding, even joked that brides are forgiven everything. At 5 o'clock in the evening, she was already sitting in the office of attorney Mr. Sterling. The office was small, filled with cabinets of folders and books. Behind the desk sat a man in his 50s with graying hair and an attentive gaze. Kesha warned me of your visit, he said, pointing to a chair. Sit down. Tell me everything. Nia told him everything about Marcus meeting him, the wedding in a week, yesterday evening at the restaurant, the overheard conversation, Kesha and her story. Sterling listened without interrupting, taking notes in a notepad. So, you heard their conversation with your own ears. But there is no recording, he clarified when Nia finished. No, I didn't even think to record. I was just hiding behind the screen. Understood. That complicates the case. Your testimony will carry weight, but without material evidence, they can contest it. They'll say you misunderstood something or made it all up due to a quarrel with your fiancé. What should I do? Sterling leaned back in his chair, thinking. We need to obtain evidence of their fraudulent intent. Ideally, an audio recording or video where they either discuss the scheme or offer you to sign documents under false pretenses. You said Evelyn plans to give you papers after the ceremony. Yes, they planned for me to sign everything within 3 days after the wedding before leaving for the honeymoon. That means we have time. Here is what I propose. You continue to play the role of the unsuspecting bride. When they bring the documents, you turn on the voice recorder on your phone. Let them explain to you what these papers are, why they are needed. If they lie, say that these are not loan agreements but something else. That will be proof of deception. Is that enough? Combined with other evidence? Yes. Plus, we need to pull up the divorce cases of Evelyn Thorne's sons. I will make inquiries at the courts, get the information. If there are disputes about debts, about division of property according to strange schemes, that will also work in our favor. Nia nodded, absorbing the information. And most importantly, Sterling continued, we need to find other victims. Kesha is the first. You are a potential second, but they haven't scammed you yet. So your case is preventative. We need actual victims. If we find at least one more woman who suffered from this family, we can file a collective report to the police. Then they will open a criminal case for large-scale fraud. How do we find them? Through civil records, through courts. I have assistants who will handle this. Give me a couple of days. They talked for another hour discussing details. Sterling explained exactly which phrases to try to capture on the recording, How to behave so as not to arouse suspicion. When Nia was leaving, he said, "You are a very brave young woman. Not everyone is capable of this. Hang in there. We will get them." The next day, Nia met with Kesha in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city. The women sat in a far corner, speaking in low voices. "Sling called me this morning," Kesha said. His assistant already started checking. "Found interesting information." "What kind?" "Julian had 2 marriages. One lasted 2 months. Divorced 3.5 years ago." "That's me. But it turns out a year before me there was another marriage. Lasted only 4 months. A woman named Renee Brooks. After the divorce, she filed a lawsuit to declare the transactions invalid but lost." Nia straightened up. "That means she is a victim too." "Looks like it. Sterling already found her contact info. She lives in a neighboring district, works as a salesperson in a clothing store. I want to meet her, talk. Maybe she will agree to testify." "I'll go with you," Nia said decisively. "I'm sure it might be hard listening to someone else's pain that is so similar to yours." "Are you sure? We must be together in this." The next evening, the 3 of them sat in the same cafe. Renee Brooks turned out to be a woman of about 35, thin with a tired face and nervous hands. When Kesha explained why they had come, Renee initially wanted to leave. "I don't want to dig up the past," she said, standing up. "It was 4 years ago. I made my peace with it." "Renee, wait." Nia took her hand. "They are going to do the same thing to me. My wedding is in a week. If you don't help, I will become the 3rd victim, and then there will be a 4th, a 5th. They won't stop." Renee slowly sank back into the chair, silent, looking out the window. Then she asked quietly, "What do you want from me? Tell your story. Give a statement. Help us stop them." Renee covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. Kesha hugged her. They sat like that for a few minutes and then Renee began to speak. Her story was almost a carbon copy of Kesha's story. Meeting Julian, a quick wedding, documents for the family business, honeymoon, return and discovery of debts for nearly $100,000. Divorce 4 months later. Loss of her condo, years of payments. "I tried to fight," Renee spoke through tears. "Sued, tried to prove I was deceived, but they had all the documents in order, good lawyers' connections. The judge ruled against me. I lost my last money on legal fees. But now it's different." Kesha said. "There are already 3 of us. 3 women, 3 identical stories. This is not a coincidence. It's a system. Sterling says that with 3 victims, the case is much stronger. Do you really think they can be put in jail?" There was hope in Renee's voice. "We don't just think, we will do everything for it," Nia said firmly. Renee wiped her tears, straightened up. "Okay, I'm with you. Tell me what needs to be done." The following days flew by in feverish preparation. Sterling processed documents, collected dossiers. Kesha and Renee reconstructed all the details of their stories, dug up old papers. Nia continued to live a double life. By day she was a happy bride. Met with Marcus, discussed final preparations, tried on dresses, had dinner with his mother, who smiled sweetly, and talked about how glad she was for the addition to the family. Nia looked Evelyn in the eye and smiled back, although inside she was boiling with rage. In the evenings when Marcus fell asleep, she texted Kesha and Sterling planning the next steps, recorded on her phone everything Marcus and his mother said, any mentions of documents of important papers after the wedding. 3 days before the wedding, Evelyn stopped by their place, brought a cake, sat in the kitchen to drink tea. Marcus was in the shower. They were left alone. "Nia dear," Evelyn placed her hand over Nia's. "I want to talk to you about an important matter." Nia went on alert, turned on the voice recorder in her robe pocket. "I'm listening. You see, my sons and I have a family business, a small firm, but it brings in income. After the wedding, you will become part of our family, and I want to sign over a share to you. This will be your financial safety net." "A share in the business?" Nia feigned surprise and joy. "That is so generous of you." "Oh, nonsense, my dear. Family should stick together. I have already prepared the documents." Evelyn took a folder out of her bag. "Just a few papers here. You'll need to sign after the ceremony when you have time, preferably before leaving for the honeymoon so everything takes effect." "What kind of documents are these?" Nia took the folder, opened it. Inside were about 20 sheets in small print. "Oh, it's legal terminology there. Don't clutter your head. Evelyn waved her hand. Marcus checked everything. Everything is in order. Just registration of a founder's share. Need your signature and a notary seal. Marcus and I will go with you. Get it all done in one day. Nia flipped through the papers pretending to read. In reality, she was photographing every page with the phone she held under the table. There are a lot of words I don't understand here, she said, portraying confusion. Collateral personal guarantee. That is mandatory for a founder. Of course, honey, it is standard procedure. When you join an LLC, you need to give guarantees that you are solvent, just a formality for the IRS. And what does my condo have to do with it? Evelyn froze for a second, but immediately broke into a smile. The condo is your asset. Show the state that you have property means you are a reliable partner. Nothing scary, just a piece of paper. Nia nodded, closed the folder. Okay, I'll sign if Marcus says everything is normal. Good girl. Evelyn patted her hand. I knew you were a sensible girl. When her mother-in-law left, Nia locked herself in the bathroom, took out her phone, sent the photos of the documents and the recording of the conversation to Sterling. Half an hour later he called back. Nia, this is gold. The lawyer's voice sounded excited. There are loan agreements here for $150,000, a lien on your condo, personal guarantees for the debts of a non-existent firm for another $40,000. Plus the recording where she clearly lies to you about the content of the documents. This is direct evidence of fraudulent intent. What's next? Next we go to the police. Tomorrow morning me, you, Kesha, Renee. We file a collective report. 3 victims, 1 potential victim, a pile of evidence. They are obligated to open a case. And the wedding? What wedding? Nia, you aren't intending to marry this person. Nia was silent. Of course not. Of course she wouldn't marry Marcus. But a part of her, the part that still remembered being in love, still clung to the illusion of happiness, shrank painfully at the thought of canceling the wedding. No, she said quietly. I'm not. Then tomorrow at 9 in the morning, I expect you at my office. From there we'll go to the police station together. Nia hung up, looked at herself in the mirror. Pale face, dark circles under her eyes, compressed lips. She almost didn't recognize herself. A week ago, she was an ordinary girl dreaming of a wedding. And now she was a participant in an operation to catch scammers. Life had turned upside down in a few days, but there was no turning back. She had gone too far. And most importantly, she couldn't leave. Unpunished the people who had destroyed the lives of at least 2 women and were going to destroy hers. She came out of the bathroom. Marcus sat on the sofa watching football. Nia, come here. He patted the spot next to him. Nia sat down. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders, kissed her temple. 3 days, he said. In 3 days you will become my wife. I am the happiest man on earth. Nia pressed against him so he wouldn't see her face. Me too, she whispered. One last lie. The last time she pretends. On Friday morning, Nia woke up at 6, although the alarm was set for 7. Couldn't sleep. Marcus snored nearby, sprawled over half the bed. She quietly got up, dressed, wrote a note. Gone to my friends. Last wedding preparations. Love you. Left it on the table. Left the apartment. Kesha and Renee were already at Sterling's office. The women looked agitated but determined. The lawyer laid out all the documents on the table. Statements, photos of papers, audio recordings, extracts from courts about divorces. This is a serious case. He said we have everything necessary. Victims, evidence, the crime scheme. The police are obligated to open a criminal investigation. They went to the precinct all together. The detective, a woman in her 40s with a tired face, listened to them, looked through the documents, asked questions, took notes. 2 hours later, she leaned back in her chair. The situation is indeed serious, she said. There are signs of fraud by a group of persons by prior conspiracy. I am opening a criminal case, but understand this is just the beginning. The investigation will take time. We will need to conduct forensic examinations, interrogations, seize documents from the suspects. How quickly can you arrest them? Nia asked. We need to gather enough evidence for an arrest first. For now, I can summon Evelyn Thorne and her sons for questioning. But to catch them red-handed, we need an operation. Are you ready to participate in it? I'm ready, Nia said firmly. The detective nodded. Here is what I propose. You say that Evelyn planned to execute the paperwork after your wedding. We need to organize a meeting for signing, but in such a way that we can document the moment of handing over fake documents and the attempt to obtain a signature under false pretenses. If they come with these papers try to mislead you, we will take them. But the wedding is the day after tomorrow. Nia paused. I can't marry him and you don't have to. Cancel the wedding. Say that you need to urgently sign some documents before the celebration, for example, for tax benefits or for joint ownership. Invent any excuse just so they bring these papers. Schedule a meeting at a notary office. We will be there. Nia nodded, although everything inside her tightened. Cancel the wedding. Finally, irrevocably call all the guests. Say everything is canceled, explain, lie, endure questions. I'll do it, she said. They left the police station around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Kesha hugged Nia goodbye. Hang in there. The hardest part is ahead. Nia got in her car, took out her phone. 15 missed calls from Marcus. Messages. Where are you, Nia? Answer. I'm worried. Are you okay? She dialed his number. He answered on the first ring. Nia, God, where have you been? I was going crazy. Sorry, Marcus. Was at a friend's discussing the bachelorette party. Phone was on silent. You scared me. Okay. Main thing is you're okay. Coming home soon in about 2 hours. We need to talk about what? About the documents. Your mom gave me papers to sign. I want to get everything filed before the wedding so I don't get distracted later. Pause. Nia heard Marcus breathing into the phone. Yes. Mom said it was better after the ceremony. No, I want to. It will make me calmer. Let's go to the notary tomorrow morning. Sign everything and that's it. So on the wedding day we don't think about anything. Okay. Marcus spoke slowly as if weighing every word. I'll call Mom right now. Arrange it. Great. I'll be there soon. She hung up, leaned on the steering wheel, breathing deeply, trying to calm her pounding heart. Everything is going according to plan. Just have to hold on for one more day. Friday evening, the three of them sat in the kitchen. Nia, Marcus, and Evelyn. Her mother-in-law came with the same folder of documents. Well, daughter-in-law decided not to delay. Evelyn smiled, but her gaze was weary. Rightly so. I already arranged with the notary for tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll arrive, process everything quickly, and you are free. Which notary? Nia asked, making an innocent face. Miss Abernathy. We have worked with her for a long time. A reliable woman will do everything as needed. Can we go to a different one? Nia spoke cautiously. It's just that I have an acquaintance who is a notary, Miss Davids. I trust her. She explained everything to me about documents when I bought my condo. Evelyn frowned. Why another one? Miss Abernathy is an excellent specialist. But I will be calmer with Miss Davids. She told me everything about the documents. Please. Marcus intervened. Mom, what difference does it make? It's more comfortable for Nia. Evelyn was silent, then nodded. Fine, let it be your Miss Davids. Give me the address. Nia dictated the address of the notary office the detective had named. Everything was already prepared there. Undercover officers, hidden cameras, voice recorders. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock we will be there. Evelyn gathered the documents. Well, that's it. I'm going. You need to get some sleep before tomorrow. The wedding is the day after tomorrow. When her mother-in-law left, Marcus hugged Nia. You seem tense. Nervous. A little. Nia pressed against him, closed her eyes. Just so much piled up. Wedding documents, worries. Everything will be fine. Marcus stroked her hair. Tomorrow we'll sign everything and the day after tomorrow we become husband and wife and fly to Mexico, and for 2 weeks we will just enjoy the ocean and each other. Nia didn't answer. She thought about how tomorrow his mother would be arrested and him possibly too, and there would be no Mexico, no wedding, nothing of what she dreamed. That night she barely slept, lay next to Marcus, looked into the dark and thought. Part of her still didn't believe all this was happening for real. That tomorrow she would go to the notary office, not to sign documents, but to hand over to the police the people she was supposed to consider family. Saturday morning began as usual. Breakfast, getting ready, the road. Marcus was calm, even cheerful, joked about how after tomorrow's wedding, they would be a real family. Nia nodded, smiled. Everything inside was clenched into a tight knot. They pulled up to the notary office at 10 to 10. Evelyn was already waiting at the entrance with that same leather bag and folder of documents. Well, ready. She smiled, but Nia noticed how her eyes darted quickly, assessing the situation. Ready, said Marcus. They entered the building, went up to the second floor. In the waiting room, they were met by a receptionist. Thorn party, go to office number 3. They entered a spacious room. Behind the desk sat the notary, an elderly woman in glasses. In reality, this was the real notary, Ms. Davids, who agreed to help the police. In the adjacent room behind a two-way mirror, sat the undercover officers and the detective. Good morning, the notary nodded. Sit down. What documents are we processing? Evelyn placed the folder on the table here. Need to notarize signatures on documents for joining as a founder. I see. Let me take a look. The notary took the documents, began to leaf through them slowly, frowned, marked something with a pencil. Excuse me, but these aren't just incorporation documents. There are loan agreements and a real estate mortgage deed here. Well, yes. It's all for processing the share in the company, Evelyn said quickly. Standard procedure. Not quite standard, the notary looked at Nia. Do you understand what you are signing? Nia made a confused face. I thought these were just papers for the business. Evelyn said they are signing over a share in the family company to me. It isn't just a share. The notary placed the documents on the table. These are loan agreements for $150,000. Your condo goes as collateral. Plus, you become a personal guarantor for the debts of a certain built LLC, for the amount of $40,000. Silence reigned. Evelyn went pale. Marcus jerked as if to stand up, but froze. This is a misunderstanding, the mother-in-law began. It's just complex legal terminology there. No misunderstanding. The notary stood up. I cannot notarize these documents because there is an obvious attempt to mislead. The young lady clearly doesn't understand what she is signing. At that moment, the door from the next room opened. 2 men in uniform and the detective entered. Evelyn Thorne. Marcus Thorne. You are detained on suspicion of fraud, said the senior officer. Evelyn's face twisted. What? What fraud? This is a completely clean deal. A deal in which you tried to deceive your son's fiancée by forcing her to sign loan agreements under the guise of incorporation documents. The detective placed a voice recorder on the table. We have a recording of your conversation in the restaurant with your son where you discussed the scheme. There are statements from 2 women who have already suffered from your actions. There is forensic analysis of the documents and there is today's attempt captured on camera. Evelyn slowly sank onto a chair. Marcus stood ashen, unable to move. It's her. The mother-in-law pointed a finger at Nia. She set it all up. Entrapment. No entrapment, the detective said calmly. You brought the fake documents yourselves. You tried to obtain the signature by deception yourselves. Nia Vance simply exercised her right to defense. Officers handcuffed Evelyn. She screamed, threatened, cursed Nia. Marcus stood looking at Nia with glazed eyes. Nia, he whispered. You knew. I knew. She looked him straight in the eye. I knew everything since that very evening in the restaurant when you and your mom discussed how to rob me. But I didn't want to. It's all Mom. You knew. And you stayed silent. Nia felt something cold and hard rising inside her. You sat across from her and nodded when she explained the scheme to you. You were going to marry me, use me, rob me, and dump me. You chose her, her money, her plan. You didn't choose me, Marcus. Nia, forgive me. Marcus's voice cracked. Mr. Thorne, you will also have to come with us to give a statement. The officer said. I was against it. Marcus grabbed Nia's hands. I told Mom it was wrong. I didn't want to deceive you. But you deceived me. Nia pulled her hands away. Every day, every hour. You kissed me and planned betrayal. You talked about love and thought about money. You aren't weak, Marcus. You are vile and we are finished. Nia, please give me a chance. I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't be sitting in a restaurant discussing how to rob me. Nia's voice was firm. Go with the police, Marcus. You have things to tell the detective. The officers led Marcus away. He looked back, tried to say something, but Nia turned away. She didn't want to see his face or hear his voice anymore. When the 3 of them were left, Nia, the detective, and the notary, silence fell. Nia sank onto a chair, covered her face with her hands. You are a very brave young woman, the detective said. Not everyone is capable of this. I don't feel brave. Nia raised her head. I feel broken. My wedding was supposed to be tomorrow, and instead I turned the man I love into the police. Loved, the detective corrected gently. Past tense. You loved an illusion, a person you invented. The real Marcus Thorne turned out to be completely different. Nia nodded. Yes, that was true. She loved the Marcus she had invented for herself. Kind, honest, caring, and the real Marcus was weak, greedy, ready for betrayal for the sake of money. The following weeks flew by in a fog. Court depositions, forensic examinations. Evelyn was taken into custody immediately. Marcus and his brother Julian were released on bail, but restricted from leaving the state. Sterling led the case masterfully, gathered all evidence, brought in witnesses. It turned out that Evelyn had deceived not 3 but 5 women over the last 7 years. 2 more victims were found after the story hit the press. They all testified. The scheme was the same. Quick wedding, documents under false pretenses, divorce a few months later, debts on the woman. The trial took place 4 months later. Evelyn was sentenced to 7 years in a federal prison for large-scale fraud committed by a group. Julian and Marcus received suspended sentences of 3 years probation as accomplices. They were ordered to pay restitution to all the victimized women. Nia sat in the courtroom and listened to the verdict. Kesha and Renee sat nearby. When the judge announced the decision, Kesha squeezed Nia's hand. We won, she whispered. Yes. Nia nodded. We won. But the victory brought no joy, only relief and emptiness. After court, the 3 of them went to a cafe, the same one where they met for the first time. What now? Renee asked. Life goes on. Kesha shrugged. I continue paying my loans. I work. Hope that someday I'll pay it off and can start life over. And I'm thinking of creating a support group, Nia said, for women who have suffered from similar schemes. Help them legally, psychologically, so they aren't left alone. I'm with you. Kesha reached her hand across the table. And me. Renee placed her hand on top. So they sat. 3 women who had gone through deception and pain, planning the future. A future without the men who betrayed them, but with the friendship they had found. 6 months after the trial, Nia met David. He was a volunteer in their support group, helping victims with legal questions. 35 years old. A lawyer at a large company, divorced, raising a daughter. Calm, reliable, honest, they started dating slowly, cautiously, without haste. Nia wasn't rushing anymore. She had learned to value not words but deeds, not promises but actions. A year later, on the anniversary of the day Kesha saved her at the restaurant, they met again as a trio, this time at the White Rose. They sat at the same table by the window where Evelyn had once discussed her dirty plans. To us. Kesha raised her glass. That we survived, that we didn't break, that we found the strength to fight for justice, added Renee. For friendship, Nia clinked glasses with them. That even in the worst you can find something good. I lost a fiancé in illusions, but I found you, and that is more precious than any wedding. They drank wine, laughed, reminisced, and in the far corner of the hall, behind that same carved screen where it all began, sat a young couple in love, happy, making plans for the future. Nia looked at them and smiled. Life goes on. People continue to love, believe, dream, and that is right. The main thing is not to lose vigilance. Not to forget that behind beautiful words, dirty intentions can hide. That love must be confirmed by actions, not promises. She took out her phone, looked at the message from David. How is the meeting? Waiting for you at home. Made dinner. A simple, mundane message, but it had care in it. Real, not feigned. Nia replied, coming soon. Thank you for being there. And for the first time in a long while, she felt that everything would be okay. Not immediately, not quickly, but it would be because she had learned to distinguish the real from the fake, love from manipulation, and she would never allow herself to be deceived again. The story has ended. A new story was just beginning. If you liked my story and want to hear more, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support me, you can do it through Super Thanks. It would mean a lot. In the comments, tell me which city you're watching from and what time it is so I can see how far my story reaches. I've added 2 more life stories on the screen just for you. Click one now and let's keep spending time together. Much love. See you soon.